If I study some. Okay, it's actually. Ek gaan nou my collega vra om my hiermee te help. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome this morning at this breakfast of Sakaliga. It's part of a series of breakfasts where we invite members of the economic representatives of different missions to South Africa to introduce themselves to our members, and where we have an opportunity to explore some opportunities that I will elaborate on shortly. My name is Peter Leroux. I'm the Chief Executive of Sakaliga. And we're a business organization, and the purpose of our organization is to improve the conditions for business for our members, for their benefit and the benefit of all communities where they do business. This morning, I'd like to introduce you to two gentlemen from the French economic representation in South Africa, or French diplomatic representation. The first is Mr. Bertrand Fournon. He is the head of the Regional Economic Department for Southern Africa. And then also Mr. Axel Barou. He is head of Business France, the trade and investment promotion agency of France in South Africa. As I said, this is part of a series of introductions that we are doing. And it started first last year or the year before, where we realized that there was an interest not only from our members' side, but also from the economic representatives of the different countries in South Africa to establish closer ties. And so part of this series, we've hosted Dutch delegations, Belgian and Flemish delegations. I see our colleagues here, and we will have another one in October focused on IT with the Flemish Trade and Investment Promotion Agency. We've had assisted the Ukrainian trade delegations in South Africa. We've had a very nice breakfast similar to this one in May with the Spanish embassy. And so I think we will turn shortly to I think some of our African representatives in South Africa with whom we are currently establishing ties, and I invite you to come to those as well. The next point I just want to make is just quickly establish the purpose of this, and then I'll hand over to our guests this morning. The first purpose of these meetings and our relationship that we wish to establish is to explore business opportunities. Not only in South Africa, not only in France, but mutually. Business is always a mutually double channel. There's no reason just to focus on exports, or just to focus on imports. There's always value to be added. Wherever there's value to be added through exports, through imports, doesn't matter. It's of benefit to the people in all mutual jurisdictions. So the first is to explore business opportunities wherever that means adding value. But the second is that it's also part of what is prudent in a globalized world, and also in a South African context. That means jurisdictional diversification and risk mitigation. And part of that is when we establish and compare the different jurisdictions available to our businesses all over the world, compared to IP protection, ease of setting up companies, tax rates, etc. Let's compare these jurisdictions and make sure that we apply our business models as purposefully to those circumstances as possible. The third item that these breakfasts and these engagements support is problem solving. It's the problems that sometimes arises at a diplomatic level between the business interests in different countries, where it's not clear what the regulations are, or there are some problems. Then personal ties and relationships help solve problems. That's why it's also important to have a personal introduction and personal discussions and relationships as we set up this morning. And finally, there's the ease of information that can flow from these relationships. And in the years ahead, we look forward to sharing with our members more and more information as we receive them from the economic representatives of the different countries where our members have interests. But also, we can look forward to sharing from Sakaliga's side and our research and policy division the insights we have on South Africa with potential foreign partners as well. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. To all of our guests there, also very welcome to you. Let me hand over to Mr. Fournon, and then for the next 30 minutes or so, we will have a presentation, and thereafter we will have a question and discussion. And one more final point, two final points. The first is that some of you have received a ticket when you park. That is complimentary. When you go out at the hotel below, just hand them the ticket, they'll scan it for you, and there's no need to pay any parking fees. And then secondly, please feel free to enjoy your breakfast. It's at the table, and that's just a more relaxed discussion. And so we'll go into a nice Q&A afterward and maybe stay for a cup of coffee. Mr. Fernand, may we have a round of applause? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and very pleased to be with you. Actually, we met with Pete and Herda a few months ago at the French embassy, and it was before summer or winter, and we decided to have this morning session, and I'm very pleased to be with you this morning, and with my colleague Axel, coming from Johannesburg. This presentation will not be an academic one, because I think that the business people in South Africa, they know relatively well our country, and some of you may know French companies as well. So this presentation is more based on recent facts and figures about France, and the idea is to raise connections after that. Before starting, maybe a few words to present our service. I'm based in Pretoria at the French embassy, and the economic department is covering South Africa plus 9 countries of the region, of the southern part of Africa. Knowing that I have 2 colleagues based in Maputo and Luanda for the Portuguese speaking countries. And for the other countries of the region, such as Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, we interact with the team of the embassy present in these countries. But, well, generally speaking, it's small teams, and so we provide them with some technical support, I would say. So my team is of 8 people today. The majority of us, we belong to the Ministry of Economy and Finance, the equivalent of the National Treasury in South Africa. But I have 2 colleagues specialized. One for agriculture, coming from the Ministry of Agriculture, is today a veterinary. And I have also a lady, a specialist for environment and climate change issue. It's it's a growing concern, I would say, worldwide, but it is also a business opportunity. So we have also this focus on environment, climate change, energy, of course. Well, I will give the floor to my colleague Axel to present Business France, and I come back to the presentation.
Thank you, Bertrand. Hi, everybody. So I'm Axel Barou. I'm the head of Business France in South Africa, and I'm in charge of our own world network in Sub-Saharan Africa. So we've got 8 offices in Sub-Saharan Africa. We are located in Cameroon, in Douala. We are in Lagos, in Nigeria, in Senegal, in Angola. We've got 2 offices in East Africa, Nairobi and Addis. A team of, and our main office is in Johannesburg. Our team is composed of 50% for all Sub-Saharan Africa. So who we are and what we do, initially we belong to the same ministry with Bertrand and the Ministry of Economy and Finance in France. And we have decided in 2010 to separate trade and invest section and economic, politics, and bilateral relationship to have 2 separate and 2 specialized teams. And in 2015, we French government has created a Business France. So Business France is a body, of course, a public agency in charge of trade and invest for France and French company abroad and for the internationalization of the French economy. We've got two main missions. First one is to help French companies to develop business abroad, to forge partnership, especially small and medium-sized companies. In normal year, I would say before the COVID, for Sub-Saharan Africa, we deal each year with 1,500 French companies interested of doing business for making partnership with African companies. Of course, a lot of them are going to West Africa. And our job here in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in English-speaking African countries to attract them to develop business in English-speaking country. And our second job is to help African companies to establish in France, to create added value, jobs, business in France. Of course, for Africa, it's not the relationship we have with Germany or with the United States regarding investment. But in 2019, we've got 30 African companies who established a business in France. The biggest one was the South African one, was Aspen Pharma. And 10 days ago, we deal with a South African company, retail property. It's a retail company who acquires 4 malls in France for more than 100.5 million euros. So it's really a big deal. And that's it. So if you've got some question after the presentation, I will be very happy to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Axel. So the way we are organized is comparable with Germany, where you have the embassy and the Chamber of Commerce, or with UK, where you have the embassy and the UK Trade and Investment Agency. In our side, our mission is to study the economy of the countries and so to provide our companies with general information on the market. And after, the team of Axel is doing a more B2B work to organize the connection and the partnerships between the companies. And in our case, we also provide some support to our companies for the market access issues. And also when some companies are facing difficulties with the authorities of the different countries, we provide them with some official support, I would say. So it's the difference between our two ways of working. So now we are going to the presentation, and it will be divided in five parts, and it is based on figures from 2019 and 2020. So some figures were impacted by the sanitary crisis, and so we try to have the comparison between 2019, that was a normal year, and 2020, where we see some different impacts of the crisis. So going to the first part. So first of all, I think that you know our country, but so France is the second largest economy of the European Union. Well, in terms of GDP, we rank below Germany, which is the largest country, and we are at the same level of GDP as UK. After it depends from one year to the other, depending of the strength of the euro or the British pound. But our two economies are comparable in size. So we are the second largest continental European market with 67 million of consumers. Our standard of living is comparable with the most developed countries of Europe, I would say. So it's comparable with Germany, with the Netherlands, for example. Two strengths of the French economy. The first one is the importance of the service sector. So today, for the export of goods, we are number 8 worldwide, but we are number 4 for the export of services. So it's a particular asset of the French economy. And if we compare with Germany, I would say that Germany is more industrial and France is more service oriented. Another characteristic of the French economy is the number of multinational companies. And I would say that in this case, we compare favorably with Germany. We have maybe more multinational groups and companies. And you see we have 57 French companies being international leaders. And we cover a broader range of sector, I would say, than Germany. And you can see it in the presence of our companies in South Africa. In terms of capital invested, we rank below UK because of the mining sector, below Germany because of the automotive industry, but our presence is more diverse. It's coming from the food sector, service sector, industry, of course, but also retail with a new investment from Leroy Merlin or Decathlon. So our presence is more diverse, I would say. Well, this data are well known. I would say, as you know, France is a country with high life expectancy, thanks to our healthcare system. So today the life expectancy is close to 83 years. So it comes from our health system, but also I would say the quality of life in France. And it also explains why we are an important tourist destination. Of course, the figure is from 2019. In 2019, we received close to 90 million tourists. Of course, the 2020 figures are much below because many countries were closed, and we used to receive a lot of tourists from North America or Asia. And today it's not possible for these people to travel, but we try to catch up, and we expect to recover in this tourism sector as well. Tourism represents roughly 10% of our GDP, so it's a comparable figure with South Africa. Another asset of the French economy is the location. Of course, we are at the heart of a dynamic region, the European Union, the European market. It's a market of 500 million consumers, representing more than 20% of the world GDP. And so we have clearly a central location in Europe between the southern part, the northern part, and the eastern part of the continent. And we have done some efforts to be attractive also in terms of logistic and custom procedures. So we rank favorably, I would say, for this important part for important issues for business people. Another asset is the level of education, and particularly of high education. So we receive a lot of foreign students. And after the Anglophone countries, I would say that we are number 2 for the number of international students going to our country. And 40% of the PhD students in France are coming from overseas. And today, to go in France as a student, you don't automatically need to speak French. We have around 40% of the curricula teach in English, and it's particularly the case with the French business schools or engineer schools. Of course, if you want to learn the French literature, you need to speak French. But for business or engineering, you can study in France without speaking our language. Of course, in the day-to-day life, it's better to have some knowledge of the French language, but it's not indispensable for studies. Another element of competitiveness, of course, is the productivity of the workforce and the labor hours. So maybe this part of my presentation is to combat quite a cliche about France, because we used to have within our SOEs, and particularly in the transport sector, railway, for the ports, and many people abroad, they keep in mind this image of a country making strikes every day and not working so much. But if you look at the productivity, we are slightly above Germany and UK, and it's the same for the number of hours worked per week. Maybe another cliche is the idea that the French people are mainly interested to be civil servants, to work in the public sector, and especially in the new generation, it's no more the case. The new generation, first of all, they are speaking good English generally, and they are more business oriented. So, and this is a survey done by international organization, and for the number of the creation of new companies in 2090s, more than 800,000 new companies, and also the survey for the students, and 45% of them would like to develop their own business. So these are good signs, I would say, for this coming generation. Now we shift to the second part of the presentation, and I would like to focus on our capital, Paris, and the Paris region. The Paris region is 12 million inhabitants, and it's an important region within Europe and worldwide. First of all, you have in Paris a strong concentration of head offices of companies. And if you take Germany, Germany has, in a way, several economic capitals. In France, it's more concentrated in the Paris region. So it explains why we are number one for the number of head offices. And we can compare with Beijing or Tokyo in Asia. So it also explains why the real estate market, and particularly the commercial real estate market, is important in France and in Paris region. And we are also the number one city for the number of international convention and conference before COVID, of course. And in this regard, we would like also to recover. And Paris is an important location in Europe for trade fairs as well. And I think that we rank number 2 after the German trade fairs. The greater Paris region is developing, and particularly we have projects to improve the public transport network with new investments in the coming year, and also to develop new housing units. So the real estate market is quite dynamic in Paris region. Paris is also an important financial center in Europe. We have the first stock market in the Eurozone, more important than the German one. And the Paris Stock Exchange is linked with the Netherlands Stock Exchange. They belong to the Euronext company, and with a connection with the US as well. Paris is a good destination for research and development, and particularly in the tech sector, we host in Paris Station F, and it's the number one startup incubator in Europe, with 1,500 companies. And to finish with Paris, a word about sports. And as you may know, we will host in 2023 the Rugby World Cup in France. So we expect to have many visitors from South Africa, the country with the trophy today. And we'll have also 1 year after, in 2024, the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games in Paris as well. So for these Olympic Games, we hope to organize them by using the existing facilities, because today an issue in every country is the cost of the high cost of the Olympic Games, and so we will try to use at the maximum the existing facility to contain the cost of these games. But we have to build a new Olympic village that will be transformed in housing units later. Speaking about Paris, maybe a more precise focus on the financial sector. Well, in South Africa, the financial sector is quite developed. It's representing 20% of the GDP of the country. For France as well, the financial sector is an asset. So we are the number one banking marketplace in Europe. We have the first stock exchange in Europe, and we have 4 French banks in the top 10 in Europe. BNP Paribas is number 2 in Europe, and Crédit Agricole is number 3. And the location of Paris is favorable because we are at less than 2 hours of flight with the majority of the European cities, and also with North Africa. It explains why the Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport is the number 1 passenger airport in Europe, and the second for cargo. And we have also for the private aviation business, Le Bourget Airport, who is number 1 in Europe. The third part of the presentation, so we shift to some factors of competitiveness. One of them is the cost of energy. If you look at the price per kilowatt hour, the price of electricity for business, for professionals, is lower in France than in other European countries, thanks, I would say, to our nuclear program. Because today, more than 70% of the energy is produced by nuclear. We have 54 nuclear units in operation. And it explains why the cost of electricity is 40% below Germany, about the same with UK. And in average, it's 20% below the European Union, the 27. Another favorable element for business is the access to internet and the cost of the access. So we have a good level of equipment for the Wi-Fi hotspots. And also the cost of the internet connection is cheaper in France. So the broadband access is in average $37 per month, and it's 41 in UK. And we make the difference with US, where there is less competition, probably, and the cost of internet access is more than $60 per month in the US. To try to catch up, maybe the reasons to do business and to invest in France, I put a focus on four four different sectors. You have the industry of the future with artificial intelligence, particularly. I think that Axel will be able to develop. Of course, the agro industry and the food sector. So France is not only the country of gastronomy, but it's also a power for agriculture, and we are among the important exporters for agriculture commodities in the world, particularly for cereals, for example, or for dairy products. The third sector is the healthcare sector, the health industry. So it's true for medical devices, for pharmacy, for vaccines. Even if our vaccine will arrive late this time, the Sanofi company will probably launch its COVID vaccine by the end of the year. So we arrived late in the race this time. But the Sanofi Pasteur companies remain an international player in the world of vaccine. And the fourth sector, I would say, it's the finance and maybe real estate sector. And with South Africa, we would like to develop the connections between our two financial sectors, especially in the context of the Brexit, where the company will remain in London, but also will have to develop a platform on the continental European market because of financial regulation. And the real estate market, we have had a good surprise, I would say, a few days ago with this important investment from a South African company. But I would say in the logic of diversification, we think that there is a space for more investment from South Africa in the French real estate market because it's a really sound and stable market. As I said previously, we have good position for the tech sector. So it's coming first of all of the education, and particularly the education in science and mathematics. And if you look at the Fields medals, it's the equivalent of the Nobel Prize for mathematics. The French scientists have a good position, and we are number 2 worldwide after the US. And it explains why the French companies are well developed in the finance sector, because finance is also based on mathematics, particularly insurance, and for the development also of tech companies. Our tech company are more focused on software rather than hardware, but there is I would say, a French level of excellence in this field of the software industry. And today, 46% of jobs have a tech component. The last part of the presentation is more oriented to investors, and it's to recall that our country today is an attractive one as an investment destination in Europe. We have many investments in logistics. For example, it's due to our central location in Europe, but also the quality of infrastructure. So we attract 20% of the investment in Europe in the logistic sector. In 2019, we had more than 360 decisions of investment made by foreign companies. And some of these companies choose France as a European headquarter, or it can be also a headquarter covering Middle East and Africa. But as you know, we have roughly in Africa half of the country speaking the French language. So it can be an option to have a regional or intercontinental headquarter from Paris covering a part of Africa. And it's true with the airlines connection as well from Paris Charles de Gaulle. You go easily to some parts of Africa. What we notice as well is the fact that the international investors are confident in the future of our country. I would say also thanks to our president's reform agenda. We can talk a little bit after about that, but clearly, since President Macron has been elected, he has organized every year a summit in Paris with the international players. And this summit is quite a success, I would say. We have 180 top-level business people attending this event. And we see it as a good sign of confidence in our economy and its capacity to reform. So we had some reforms for the employment system, for in view a reform for the pension system as well. And I think that this reform agenda will move on. We have election next year, so we'll see. But well, we expect that the trend for reform will go on. So the result of this progress is the fact that we gain in international rankings as an investment destination. So for the World Economic Forum, we are now 7 ranks better than in the past. So from 22nd to 15 rank worldwide. And as I said before, for the academic sector, our business schools are really attractive. And we have 2 of them in the top 10 worldwide, INSEAD and HEC Paris. And I think we arrive at the last slide. So it is to show that we rank favorably as an investment destination. So we are today between UK and Japan, and it shows a significant progress compared with the past. So as you see, we are growing in this ranking from the 17th position in 2012 to the 5th position, and it's a survey made by AT Kearney, so it's an international ranking. All the figures present slides are coming from, I would say, international and independent ranking organization. And so to finish, so we have this edition for 2 years now, and it has been confirmed in 2020, despite the economic crisis. And so we received a little bit more investment projects in 2020 than UK and Germany. So we hope we can keep this good position in the coming years. This is to show that the investment decisions are located, yes, mainly in the Paris region, but not only. And Business France will explain it, but they have a system to select, depending on the project, the most favorable region to invest. And these investments can be takeovers, expansion of existing sites. If you take the Aspen Pharma Group, they bought a company 6 years ago, and they have decided the first range of investment and now a second. So it showed the confidence in the market and the location, and also it can be greenfield projects. We may quote some examples as well for South African companies. So end of the presentation, and we will be happy to answer your questions. It's a starting point, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we please enjoy your breakfast. If you have started it, if you like. My colleague is going to move around with their microphone and feel free to answer the questions. One request is that if you ask a question, try and leave the microphone. We use that for the sound system for our So if I may kick off with the question. Can I see any hands so far? Over there. Okay, so next we'll come over there. My question is, gentlemen, so from I'll turn to France as a business destination in a second, but South Africa and South African companies as potential business partners for French companies. My question there is, how would you describe South Africa as seen from French companies' position? Not only investors to do foreign direct investment, but also possibly SMMEs looking to outsource some of their IT development or some of their manufacturing or some of their design work, because what would be interesting to them, South African companies, what would make our companies potentially interesting? I mean, you have the Aspen level, that's all good and well, but at the SMME level, what makes South African companies interesting? What do you think are our advantages?
So this is the first part of our job, is to help French company to develop and to make partnership with a South African company. There is, to be quite frank, there is a problem of image of South African market for French company. They know only that they have learned or that they have read into the media in France regarding the problem of security. Sorry to be quite frank, problem of corruption, problem of COVID, etc., etc. Regarding the riot you've got in July in South Africa, it creates a very, very bad image. Sorry to frank, to be straight to the point. Our job is to change it. It's to explain to the French company that there is the most developed African country, which is South Africa, that there is the most diversified economy in South Africa, that there is a middle class compared to the middle class we have in France, and really our job is to attract French company to develop business here. I must add something regarding the trade. We charge the French company for our services. So when we make survey, when we make B2B meetings, when we organize sectorial seminar, business seminar, they pay for it. So we have really we've got an obligation, it's compulsory, an obligation of results between French company and South African company. We never charge the African company, not worry. It's our service for foreign companies are totally free, totally confidential, of course. It's in our ethic charts. But yeah, and it's going well. I said before that in normal year, we attract in Africa 1,500 different French companies. When we help a French company to develop in Cameroon and in South Africa, we count for one. So it's between 1,400 and 1,500. In South Africa, of this 1,500 company each year, there is 350 French company, who, especially small, medium size, who came in South Africa to meet with South African company, to deal with them, to organize something. Sometimes to organize cooperation to another country and another African company, another African country. We've got a main event. The next one will be in October, which is called Ambition Africa in France. You can Google, it's in English and in French. You can Google it, Ambition Africa. And we organize, this is the main event between France and Africa, the main B2B, the main business event. And we organize meetings with, of course, French company and African company, but meetings with African company and African company. And I deal a lot with a South African company who wants to develop business in West Africa, for example. We want to meet not only French company, but Ivory Coast company, Senegal company, etc., Nigeria, etc., etc. And we organize it in Paris. So just want to mention it.
Maybe to go along, I would say that for the French companies already present in South Africa, well, the image of the country remains strong. And what we have noticed is during this crisis, our companies were very resilient. Almost none of them has decided to close the business or to reduce the business. They have maintained the jobs, they have maintained the activity. And we have even seen significant new investments in this period in 2020 and early 2021. We had some investment in industry with Air Liquide. We had investment in the environment business with Séché Environnement. So several French companies have decided to invest more in South Africa because they are convinced that the market is interesting in itself, but also that they may find some partners to localize some activities. If you look at Alstom in the public transport business, the construction of railway cars, today they are located here, they are producing, they have 30% of local suppliers. And the idea of this investment is not only to cover the South African market, but the African market for the railway industry. So we would like to see more examples like that. The idea that in South Africa you have a basis, you have knowledge, you have companies in industry, in IT, that can maybe partner to develop on the African markets in the regions. Yes, sometimes we have competition between South African and French companies. If you go to the telecom sector, of course, well, it's difficult to partner with MTN because they are a direct competitor of Orange on the continent. But in many other sectors, we can see some partnership. It could be true also for aeronautic. Unfortunately, today the aeronautic sector in South Africa is facing difficulties. But we used to have a good cooperation in aeronautics for aircraft, for helicopters, for the production of spare parts, and we hope to see this business growing again in the future. It's true also for the IT developments, because we are creative startups in South Africa, in France, and they can have a collaboration, a partnership, and it may give some positive fruits, I would say, for both of them. Yes.
Just to we utilize the French leader here in South Africa to give testimony to a French company who don't know nothing about South Africa. And in July, beginning of July, last July, we organized a workshop. It was a digital workshop with the South African embassy in Paris, of course, with the DTIC, with Invest in South Africa, to present to a new French company all the potential of South Africa, and so we had testimony from the French company here in South Africa, and we notice we organize this type of event every year or every 2 years, or I would say every 18 months. It's really a focus. We had 120 French company from France attending the event. They all have not a project for tomorrow, but there is something in their mind to say that there's something to do in South Africa, and there is something to build with a South African company.
I would add also, maybe we are too long, but we also try to mobilize our companies in the new infrastructure program in South Africa, and particularly if these programs evolve to public-private partnerships. And we have many companies interested for energy, renewable energy, for water, for waste treatment, and possibly for highways or ports, if you have an evolution of the regulation, if the Transnet Port Authority is making tenders for some part of the activities, for sure we will have some French companies interested in this opportunity.
Thank you, Piet. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jacob Mulder. I'm a member of Parliament and the national spokesperson for trade, industry and competition for a opposition party. So I'm not talking on behalf of the government. The reason why I'm saying this, I've got a bit of another angle which I want to ask a question. In the Portfolio Committee, we oversee the functions and the international treaties between South Africa and, amongst other countries, France, etc. Is there space or possibilities for the expansion of trade between French companies then and South African private companies, which is form part of a of a business community, like for instance, Sake Liga or others. In other words, which is not formally form part of official trade treaties or programs between France and South Africa. In other words, direct private opportunities for business. I think it's important to know that because for myself and the organization that I represent, we've got a passion for local economic development, more localized than centralized. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Well, about the trade relation between France and South Africa, today, as you know, we belong to the European Union, and we are quite a specific region or animal, I would say. And today, for the trade relation, it's an agreement between the European Union and the countries of the southern part of the continent. So we have economic partnership agreements, EPA, between European Union and the SADC countries. And so it's the general frameworks. And this agreement is voluntarily, I would say, unbalanced. So the European market is more open to the products and services from this region than on the other side. And there is still some protection remaining to protect the markets of the Southern Africa countries. But in the future, we would like to see this agreement be more developed, more improved, I would say, because never a good solution. We have, for example, this kind of restriction in one field of agriculture. It's the poultry sector. So we have, I would say, a fight between Europe and South Africa on this issue. We understand the need to develop the production of poultry in South Africa, but in the end, it's more creative, I think, to find solutions, to have maybe economic partnerships between French and South African groups, rather to fight on export duties and things like that. It's because for the consumer, in the end, the advantage is to have a better choice and a better price. And so the protections measures are not always the solution. So more dialogue, more openness of the market would be profitable on both sides, finally. So we have this choice to maintain trade barriers or to try to find solutions together to improve the partnerships. And well, Axel can confirm, we have French operators interested not only about trade, but also about investment in the country.
Just to make a point, in 2000, the market share of France in Africa was around 10% of market share. Now we are at 4%. And in South Africa, we were around 4.5. Now we are in 2.2 or 2.3, the market share of France. So our job is really to redevelop the relationship. Of course, there is newcomers. There is Chinese industry, India. There's a lot of, and it's normal. This is a game. But our priority is to develop really the links. And we know that we cannot only develop the links between France and Africa and France and South Africa with big French company. It's the reason why our job, I say at Business France, is quite different for the economic section of the French embassy. our job at Business France is really to focus on small and medium-sized and mid-cap company. This is our priority. This is the mid-caps, the South African mid-caps, and the French mid-cap, and to help them to develop business, even if it's not part of our job. If some South African company want to develop trade with friends, who can organize events, relationship, contact. We've got, of course, headquarters in France, and this headquarters deals directly with the region, the provincial government, to find the best location, the best the best tax rate as well, to attract newcomers in France.
And even in a period of difficulties, we may see some good surprises. I would say, if you look at the agriculture projects, the South African companies in 2020, they exported 20% more in France. And if you go at a grocery shop in France, now you can find fruits or citrus, avocados from South Africa. So they are booming on the market.
I can mention this example because this is not a secret, but we helped the South African company All and Sons. I don't know if you know, it's a company from Limpopo. They made avocado, and they are located now in Paris, near Paris, and in Marseille, in the south of France, and they export a lot of avocado from South Africa to France, and France is a European platform for the group now. They are making a really, really good business, and I'm really happy for that.
Thank you very much. My name is Anton Alberts. I'm the chairperson of the opposition party that Jaco belongs to. He invited me here today, so thank you for having me and for giving me an opportunity to ask questions. I'm also a businessman. I own a small business. And I think for South Africa as a whole, I want to make a statement first and then ask a question. I think what's important for South Africa, as you have said rightly, is that we need connections between medium-sized businesses and small businesses. If we look at what happened in July in South Africa, we saw something very negative, but we also saw something very positive. The positive was that South African society, civil society, is very resilient despite what government do. So irrespective of government, I think the investors in France must know that when they come here, there's a core stability here from civil society itself. It's interesting what the media does. If a few months ago, I guess, or a year or two ago, if I looked on the main news channels about France, I would see news about the yellow vests in in Paris, you know. So people were thinking in South Africa, is it safe to go to France? So it's strange, but yes, people think that. But the media takes things out of proportion. You don't see the big picture. What you showed here today is the big picture of France for real. So that helps a lot to distill in our minds whether it's okay to deal with France. So I think it will be good for France to engage with South Africa and increase its foreign direct investment, and to touch base with medium-sized and small businesses through organizations like Sake Liga. That's very important because small businesses are suffering, but they create the most jobs. So it's so important to do that. I find I used to sit in the Trade and Industry Committee as well, as my colleague is sitting now in Parliament. I used to be a member of Parliament. I'm now in Gauteng legislature. And what was interesting is that they deal with these big companies. You know, it's about the investments from Volkswagen into South Africa, or BMW, and so on, Renault, and those companies. But you don't see much happening on the small business front, even in Parliament. And that's hugely problematic. Now, Parliament did create a a portfolio for small businesses, small business department, but I don't think they really have traction. So once again, I want to say, it's up to the civil society, not up to politicians, and not up to government to decide. Although they make the rules, of course, the top level rules that govern investments. But I think it's very important for us to make sure that we connect on a very low level and create jobs on that basis. And just a personal question. I'm also the chairperson of a small cooperative, a savings and credit cooperative that hopefully will get a full banking license and will become a cooperative bank itself in South Africa. And they would be very interested in speaking with French partners that might, I don't know if you have bank cooperatives in France, and see how they do business, and also touch base with your financial technology sector. Because there's one thing that can turn around the fight against poverty, especially in Africa and South Africa, is that financial technology opens up the space for people to get access to loans, to start a business, to become entrepreneurs. So we would like to know how we can touch base with you in that regard, and see if we can have success here. We become the blueprint then, of course, for many other African cooperative businesses. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm at your entire disposal to organize something. We've got some cooperative bank in France as well. Banque Populaire is and Crédit Coopératif. But they are not located in South Africa, not yet. But can organize some contact to see how they work, how they, and I mean, at the French embassy, we've got Fabien with the financial counselor who know exactly this problem, and we've got two French banks in South Africa. We've got BNP Paribas, linked with RCS, the consumer company, and we've got Société Générale. They are in partnership with APSA, but they've got a team here in South Africa. Maybe we can organize something to create the contact with you.
Thank you very much. For a final question from any other table? Thank you. I think we will have a discussion afterward as well. Please have another cup of coffee from my side. Thank you very much to our guests this morning, Bertrand Fourneau and Axel Barou. Is that correct? Yeah. All right. I'm not Leroux for nothing. But thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having some more discussions and seeing you at our next event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so, Pete and Herda, you can share our emails to the group. So if you have more precise or detailed questions this morning, we can interact with pleasure with the members of this organization. And again, thank you so much for organizing so well. Thank you, Pete, Herda, and all the Saheliga team. Thank you very much.